I thought about this. I grew up in Sydney, well, I suppose an expensive area because you're in a Sydney. And I was thinking early on, what am I going to do? This is a long time ago where there wasn't a word called rent vesting around. And I decided, okay, I was, I suppose, fortunate because I was able to rent in one of my parents' properties and for a very affordable amount of rent, well below market rate. So I took advantage of that. As you do.
So you should.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a benefit of having that. And so I decided to go down the rent vesting, and I bought rental property. And I thought, this is pretty cool because it's not just me paying this property off. I've got a tenant in there who's paying rent. And then luckily, or not luckily, but it was what we call negatively geared. So there's a negative cash flow when you took into account depreciation and everything else. And so the government would pay me back some money each year as well to help maintain that property. And then I found out it wasn't a huge amount of money out of my pocket. It's just like a savings program, really. I thought of it that every week I contribute a certain amount of money to pay my property off. And lo and behold, next year when I got a valuation on it, it had gone up. And I actually made some money as well. And early on, I thought, this is pretty cool. I don't have to live in the property. I wouldn't want to live in the property. It was in a Sydney, Ashfield, it's called, and people want to live there. It's near a train line. I bought that in, I think, 1997. I've still got it, and I've had maybe 2 weeks of rent not rented that whole time. It's been very desirable for people to rent. It was a great little buy, but it's all I could afford at the time. It was only 125,000. This little unit. Now it's worth a lot more than that.
I can imagine.
I found. I got the bug, I suppose, that I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. And so I continued to do that. And I continued to buy properties because it wasn't just all my income going to afford it. I had other people, the tenant and the government, helping me do it. And I decided that I wanted to spend more of my personal income to build my wealth, and I continued to do that. And I didn't end up buying a home to live in until well down the track, until I think our oldest child was well, probably 8 or something like that, or 9. We waited as long as we could, and then we bought a property that we could afford it then. A nice property, and unfortunately we're rebuilding it now, which costs a lot of money. But now you're not doing that when you're 25. You're doing that well down the track when you can afford to do these sort of things. And that worked very well for me, because then when I moved from Sydney down to Melbourne, we lived in probably one of the best suburbs in Melbourne called Brighton, and lived in a great property. We lived there when I relocated to Melbourne for 10 years. And this one property, the rent was tiny. The owner was awesome because we took long-term leases. It was amazing the amount of rent we paid where we were. It was just phenomenal, and just allowed us to continue to build properties and not worry about, we didn't have to renovate it. We didn't pay the rates, the body corporates. We did nothing. It was so cheap to live there, in a phenomenal area and lifestyle, and allowed us to put a lot of our income into wealth.